Hi, I'm Selena, and today I'm going to be doing the Pride Flag book tag with a special guest. This is my boyfriend, Mason, and I brought him on for the Pride Flag book tag. And Mason, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Yes, my name is Mason, as you have heard a few times. I use he, him pronouns due to the fact that I am a transgender man. So in the comments, if you wouldn't mind referring to me by my pronouns, that would be very nice and respectful.
Yes.
I am very excited to be on here today. I've been pestering Selena about doing this tag for like 3 weeks. And I mean, like, honestly, I just want to like come on her channel and take it over, but I'm not going to do that.
You are going to. You're going to.
Okay.
You're going to take over.
Regardless, we've been dating for about 2 years, and she is the one who has gotten me back into reading. So I have her to thank for that.
I think every single book on this list that you are going to talk about, I recommended to you.
Probably recommend a good 75% of my books.
Yep, except for one, but that's because you...
Surprise!
Okay, anyways. Where were we? I think is that a good enough introduction?
Yeah, probably.
That's all I need about you. Okay, cool.
I'm a simple man.
What?
I'm a simple man.
A simple man with a simple biography. Okay. I guess let's get into the Pride Flag book tag. Before we start, I just want to say that this tag was created by Spencer from Common Spence. I will link the original video down in the description, which you should definitely check out because he had a lot of interesting information about why he chose these colors and the history of the Pride Flag, the LGBTQ plus flag. We are both a part of the LGBTQ plus community, so we are very excited to be doing this tag. And with that, let's just get into the questions. You ready, Mason?
Never. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first question is based off of, every question is based off of like a different color of the flag, the 6 stripe flag. And the first one of those is red, which originally stood for life. Each of the flag colors has a meaning, and red's is life. So the prompt for this one is a book with a spirited protagonist, totally proud of who they are, someone who gives you life. Mason, I want you to start.
All right. So for this one, I even have the color in the title. It is red, white, and royal blue. It is my absolute favorite book of all time. It is about a fictionalized first son of the United States and his romance with a prince of England. And as you might be able to guess, there's some political ramifications, but also hilariousness. So I highly recommend it as a book, but as a character, the main character, Alex, is just, he's like chaotic, but in a very controlled way. And he has his whole life together except for his romantic life. And you know what? We respect that. But in general, he's just a guy filled with so much like love and light and positivity. He may have rough times, but he always ends up pulling through. And knowing that we're part of the same community and that there's books like this where I can reflect on being in that community, it just makes me proud to be who I am.
Yeah, it really does. It really is like a really positive book. But moving on, my answer is my answer for this is a book that I have not read since before I got really back into reading. I may have even read this before I found BookTube. But that series is, I guess the series is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, and I'm going to be talking about the character Alex Fierro. But first, what?
2 Alexes.
Oh, yeah! Okay. So, basically, this is a series by Rick Riordan about Norse mythology. You follow a character named Magnus Chase, who dies within the first 16 pages and goes to Valhalla. It's really popular middle grade, and there, while he's at Valhalla, he meets like a ton of crazy people, and honestly, I don't really remember what the plot is. other than gods basically running amok and causing trouble, and Magnus having to deal with it all for some reason. But I read these books mainly because I was a huge Rick Riordan fan, and I heard about Alex. I heard about this character who comes in the second book, and I surprisingly just fell in love with the whole series, and it made me really happy. And I specifically chose Alex Fierro. Alex is gender fluid, and she does not take anything from anybody, and she's not here to explain herself. She's just here for you to respect her, and she's
green hair.
She's green hair. Alex was really inspirational for me because of how sure of herself Alex was, and how Alex commanded respect, and how much Alex loves herself and respects herself, even when it's hard, even when the world doesn't, and even when she's been dealt a really rough hand. And I also just love how Alex was handled by everyone else in this book, and I just think that if anyone is going to embody like the life and kind of like the right to live in a world that doesn't really want you there, it's definitely like Alex for me. Just so everyone like knows, if this isn't obvious, Alex, this is not Own Voices. So, you know, do with that what you will. I'm not saying that like Alex couldn't be written better by an actual gender fluid person, but Rick Riordan's not that. And I'm also not gender fluid, so I can't really speak on the rep, but I personally really love Alex's character and how Alex is handled. Okay.
I want to read that.
You should. Okay.
Simply for Alex.
I know. Okay. So, moving on to question 2, that corresponds with the color orange, which originally stood for healing. And the prompt is a book that made you, as the reader, find a deeper meaning or catharsis in your own life. Mason, take it away.
All right. So when I first heard this prompt, I had something that immediately came to mind, but then I was like, no, I can't use that. It's going to sound like conceited and selfish. But thinking through it, there's really no other thing that has as much meaning to me. So for the last 8 or so years, I have been writing a book. It's nowhere near finished, so it'll probably be like 20 more. But I've been writing it since through some of my most developmental years. I haven't developed my speaking skills yet. And the characters have grown with me, and I have been like surrounded by their presence in my life for the entire time. I don't have cover art for it because it's not published or anywhere near it. What?
Hopefully one day.
Hopefully one day, but we'll see. Maybe I'll hate it eventually. But the book is called Jace is Gay. And these are some sketches I did of the characters, or at least 9 of them, back probably like 5 years ago. They're not the greatest, but they're the best thing I have to represent the people in that book who have given me so much life. And just writing that book has been an amazing way to like funnel myself into something. It's really helped me come to terms with who I am, and explore that person that I have become through the lives of these characters. So I put so much of myself into it. And one of the only things that can make me feel that deep of a catharsis is that world I've created. So sorry if that sounds like I'm just bragging, like insert self promo here, but that's just one of the biggest parts of my life.
Also, it's a really gay book, so.
Oh, I forgot to say that, yes. I thought from the title, Jace is Gay, you might assume that it's a gay book, but yes, it's mostly LGBTQ romance.
Okay, I will tell you my answer for this as soon as I go back from shutting my door off. Okay, so I'm back, and I am going to say for my orange book, that book is going to have to be Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is a classic, and it is one of the only classics that I know of that deals with, I don't know if I want to say like, it deals with sexuality in a kind of queer way, even though that's not really how anyone would have described this book back then. That wasn't really like, this was written in the 20s. LGBTQ plus like terms and things and development was still up and coming. But I love this book, and if you don't know, this is a stream of consciousness. This is a stream of consciousness novel set in a single day, and we follow multiple perspectives who we are very close to, including Mrs. Dalloway, who is going about her day planning this party she is putting on later that night. And we get really deep into the heads of a lot of different people, and there seems to be there's very explicit, like, homoerotic feelings that many of the characters have for other characters, but also some that are more implicit and up to interpretation. It wasn't necessarily just the moments where characters were dealing with their sexuality in this book that made me like feel really seen by it. It was everything. It was the way their minds worked. It was the way they dealt with mental illness. It was the way that their brains kind of saw memory and how it kind of like collided with their present and mixed with it. And their sexuality is like a part of that, of course. But I really liked how this book looked at cognition, and that's why it spoke to me so much. And also, I love classics, and I also love feeling represented in classics. And so I love that there's a classic that deals with sexuality, and it just makes it helps because it makes you feel like, you know, this is something that's been around, and it gives me, like, even though like this isn't really what you're supposed to do with like authors, it makes me feel like more connected to Virginia Woolf. And there's a lot of that in this book. And because I feel like she put a lot of herself in this book. And I love that. And I feel very connected to it. And that's why it was healing. Okay, let me get my notebook. So the third one is Mason's favorite color, which is yellow, which stood for sunshine. And this prompt is a book that fills you with so much joy, it could brighten even your darkest day. Mason?
All right. So for this one, I have a book that obviously Selena recommended to me because she recommends all my books. It is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. It is a wild time of a book. It is about a son of a nobleman, Monty.
In 1700s England.
Oh yeah, I forgot that it's old. But it was written now, so it's not boring. What, you want to think I want? But anyway, yeah, so Monty and his love interest, his best friend Percy, are going on a tour of Europe as a coming-of-age thingy-mabob. And along the way, there is a lot of chaos because Monty is the biggest disaster you've ever met. But he also just puts a smile on your face because the book is hilarious. It does not read like it was written in an 1800s style. Not that 1800s books are bad, don't get that idea. But this one has a lot of very modern humor infused into a historical fiction setting. But yeah, the things that Monty does are just so ridiculous that you just can't help but smile at them. He's also just a very fun-loving character. He has his ups and downs, but he's just a source of like light and radiance.
One thing that I also really liked about that book is the way that Monty deals with his own sexuality, which he's very open about, even if he doesn't have the words for it. I mean, I can't tell you whether it feels like realistic because I'm not living in the 1700s, but like I think that it felt, I don't know, it felt really, I don't want to say authentic, but it felt really good to me. It felt really real and raw, and I liked that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my pick for this is actually my current read, which is kind of against the rules, maybe, but I'm still going to do it because I'm over halfway through and I am loving it so much. I am texting Mason constantly about this book. It is amazing. I love it. It makes me so happy. And that book is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Jackson. This is a book about two girls, one of which is our main character, Liv. And Liv is, or no, not Liv. I keep calling her Liv. Her name is Liz. Her name is Liz Leidy. And Liz, isn't it? Liz Leidy, yes. And Liz is running for prom queen because she wants a scholarship attached after her scholarship she was hoping for falls through. And while she is running for prom queen, she becomes like embroiled in all these like fun tasks, and she starts developing a crush on one of her competitors for prom queen, and it's really cute romance between two girls, and it's just really sweet, and it deals with themes of like racism and intersectionality and also like coming out, but mostly it's also just, what I love about it is it's just really fun and really sweet. And I love it when we get those kind of stories for girls who like girls. I feel like there's a lot of like, not necessarily in books, but like in a lot of media, there's a lot of like melodrama or like, I don't know, just weird vibes. And this book doesn't have that. And I really am loving it so far. Highly recommend it. It just came out and like everyone's hyping it, and they're hyping it for a reason. Okay. Moving on to green. This is the color associated with nature on the LGBTQ plus flag. And Mason, what is, oh no, I forgot to even read the prompt. Why am I like this? This is a book that is set out of this world, a reality different to our own. Mason, go ahead.
All right, you're gonna have to pick up the book for me because I'm still waiting for you for a few months.
I'm a professional. I have it. I'm not a professional. I don't make money, but
anyway. My pick for this one is We Are the Ants. It is a very complicated story. So that centers on the main character, Henry, who is going through a very hard time, to say the least. He had a boyfriend who committed suicide a year or so prior to the book starting. And that obviously is extremely hard for him to deal with. And he has grief in other areas of his life, and feel like things are kind of falling apart. So when he is visited by aliens, he is given a choice to press a button and save the world, or to do nothing and let the world die. But we don't know how or why, but that's not really the important part. The important part is that Henry doesn't know. He is in such a place of sadness that he can't decide whether or not the world is worth saving. So obviously there's an alien element, just a visual reference in case you need it. This is Mitchell, by the way, I love him. He's both in a place of having like these supernatural occurrences happening to him, but at the same time, he kind of feels like he's out of his own world, because everything that he knew kind of shattered over the past year, and things haven't felt right since. So whether or not you want to count this as like a science fiction-y type thing, or in terms of being out of the world, or just a very human feeling out of your world, I think in both cases, it's a place that not many of us actually understand to the depth that he does.
Thank you for that, Mason. Mine, oh my gosh, you have my book. And my book is, my choice for this is Song of Achilles, or at least one of them. I have a couple that are kind of less hyped than this.
I stole this one too.
Yeah, he's gonna read it. You should keep holding it. They want to see it. It's beautiful. Okay.
It's shiny.
Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. If you don't know, I'm sure you do. This is hyped on like every platform. This is a retelling of kind of the Iliad, and it follows from Patroclus's point of view, and it kind of follows Madeline Miller's interpretation of Patroclus, his relationship with Achilles, and their relationship with their world, and the war going on, etc. It's a really interesting interpretation that uses a lot of, it takes a lot of liberties, I would say, from the actual Iliad, but I really enjoyed her interpretation. It was so nice to read. It was very light and easy to fly through until it wasn't, and then it rips your heart out. But everyone knows that about this book. The hype is real. I love it. I love this book. And even though it's technically like Greece is our world, like it still is kind of a different Greece. It's the Greece of Greek mythology. It's the Greece of the Iliad, and I really enjoy it. Also, by the way, some of these books need trigger warnings, like this one and We Are the Ants. I will be putting those in a pinned comment down below. So if you feel like you need to check them for anything, that will be down there for you. And yeah, I think those are obvious why they're in other worlds. So let's move on to blue, I guess. Blue is the trait that goes with blue on the flag is peace. And the prompt is a book where one of the characters finds peace with a difficult truth. Mason.
All right. So this is also a very hype book, just like most of mine have been. But this is Carry On. For those of you who don't know what this is, it is Harry Potter if Drarry were real, essentially. And you know what? We disrespect J.K. Rowling in this house. We disrespect her writing choices. I say Drarry is canon. But anyway, yeah, it's about a wizarding school. Ooh, shocking. And there is the main character, Simon, who is the chosen one. But he really doesn't know what being the chosen one means or why he's the chosen one. And he has a lot of like identity conflicts surrounding that. At the same time, he thinks his roommate's kind of hot, but he doesn't know he thinks his roommate's kind of hot. It's a whole thing. But so he's having to deal with this dilemma of like, what does it mean to like save the world, or what am I supposed to be doing? Along with the fact, like, how am I gay? Like, what am I? So it's all these. He has all these crises about like identity in so many different ways. And then I feel like the book is really able to like show his growth over time, like him learning to accept who he is and for what he is. And he might not be perfect, but he's himself.
Yeah, that was very nice. Okay, so my pick for this is going to be Ramona Blue by Julie Murphy. And Ramona Blue, we follow a girl named Ramona who is very, she thinks she's secure in her sexuality. She has only liked girls for as long as she can basically remember. And she lives in like a small town that has kind of been, I believe it was kind of ravaged by Hurricane Katrina, and nothing's ever been the same since. And so she doesn't have like an amazingly easy life, and so she kind of doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't really want to deal with it, but she starts to kind of have feelings that make her question her sexuality for a second time. And I think that this book gets a really bad reputation for no reason. Well, we know the reason, but I don't want to get into that here. Basically, this book is about the fluidity of sexuality and how sometimes the identity that you decide on at first is not the identity you stick with. And this goes for gender too, but this book definitely talks about sexuality more. And it really, I felt very much like, I don't know, not exactly like I was looking into a mirror, but like I felt like this book really represented it very well. And I really appreciate Ramona for that, but Ramona has to come to terms with the difficult truth, which is that her sexuality isn't what she thought it was, and that her identity isn't what she thought it was. And she has to figure out how she fits into the community again, has to kind of revalidate herself. And that is, I think, a really valid struggle that isn't often talked about in YA or LGBTQ plus literature at all. So highly recommend Ramona Blue. And the color is in the title, just like Red, White, and Royal Blue. Ramona Blue. Look at that. The cover is very blue as well. You can probably see because I've probably put it on the screen. Okay, moving on to our final question. This one is Purple. Spirit, a book that deals with LGBTQ plus themes and religion. Okay, Mason.
So Selena and I fought over this one because it's one that we both wanted to do, but I won because I'm the guest. It is Autoboyography. The best like 2-sentence sum up of this book is gay Mormons. But there's more to it. It is about this guy who is living in Utah, a very Mormon part of Utah. And he has a TA who he has a thing for. And the plot of the book is he is trying to write his own book for a class, but he keeps getting distracted by this TA because he can't think of anything else but him. The problem with this is that the TA has some struggles with his own orientation in relation to being a Mormon because he practices the religion unlike Tanner. And so he has a really complicated journey with religion because his life was founded on this. And even though he retains like his Mormon beliefs, he feels like he might be alienated from his family and his community and even maybe God. And it's about reconciling like who he is as both a religious person, specifically a Mormon, and a gay person. And it's just really complicated for him. But it has a lot of good commentary on religion and how it factors in with sexuality.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to point out that this struggle that he has with his sexuality and religion, Sebastian, not Tanner, not the main character, but Sebastian's, this book kind of shows that it doesn't have to be all negative. Like, the way that his religion and his connection to the LDS church and like his own identity and God is not necessarily always in conflict with his orientation and the way he feels. So I really thought that was nice. I am not a part of the LDS church or community or anything like that, so I cannot tell you whether this is amazing representation or not. I've heard good things, and I personally liked the balance between like the way religion was discussed. I did not think that religion in general or even the LDS church was demonized at all in this book. And I think that it has relatable parts for any LGBTQ plus person who is religious or has dealt with kind of a religiously motivated ignorance or misunderstanding in their lives.
Yeah, and I could speak to that. I am not a Mormon, but I am religious, and I felt like the conflicts were handled well because community and church are separate from belief itself in a lot of ways. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict comes from.
And then my pick for this is going to be The Miseducation of Cameron Post. This is a story about a girl who is sent to a conversion camp. That takes a while to get to that part of the book because a lot of the book is her figuring out her sexuality within a community and a family that is not very accepting of it. And that eventually leads to her going to a conversion camp. And yeah, I think that neither of these books really demonize religion, but I do think that the story of not being accepted and having religion weaponized is also a very valid story to include in the especially when you're talking about the LGBTQ plus community. So I wanted to throw that in there as like another side of the coin. And yeah, I think that's it. Also, I just want to point out your romp hymn has pride flags on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, yep, there we go.
Nothing
there they are.
The American flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what time it is? It's time for a book lift. It's time for a book lift. And you pick up your pile of books and hold them by your face and just...
I only have like 3 books. You own the other one. I'm going to
Yeah.
use one of yours too. I'm cheating.
What?
I'm going to use one of yours too, but I'm cheating.
Ah, you pick up all the ones you have. Yeah, okay. And so...
This is hard.
Upper arm strength, I'm telling you.
I have none of that. Sorry, continue.
Okay. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching our Pride Flag book tag. And thank you in advance for welcoming Mason to the channel. I'm happy that you were able to join me. Thank you, Mason. And yeah, I'll see you next time. And we might even see Mason in another video. Bye.